You are listening to Insights with Kathleen. Please join me while I share my insights and experiences with the hope to inspire you to look inside of yourself for the answers that you already have. As with all information we receive, take what speaks to you and leave the rest.
Hey everyone, we are back the very next day from our episode 18 recording.
Yes, we are. Hi, guys.
Hey, so we were really excited. We wanted to share Sherry's experience.
Yeah.
Because after our conversation last night, you went home and actually had your own kind of a conversation. Would you mind sharing with the greater audience?
Of course. Anything for our audience. Yeah, so basically what had happened was I was nervous, obviously. So I go in, I talk with my mom.
Oh, well, let's back it up just a little bit, just in case somebody's listening to this out of sync of episode 18.
Right.
Episode 18, we were doing a check-in. It's about, we were still talking about adult shipping.
Right.
And you had been home for about 2 weeks now, and you were really just starting to feel like, oh crap, everything's just going back the way that it was.
Right.
So you knew you had to do something, and we had we being me.
We also, I also
had encouraged you to have a very transparent conversation with your mom.
Right.
And yes, so now go.
Okay, everyone's all caught up to speed. So I'm going back home. I walk in, I'm talking to my mom, and we're just making small talk. And I'm not gonna lie, I was very nervous, and I guess it's because the little girl in me is like, I've had this type of conversation before, and it doesn't go well, and blah blah blah. Just like the little things. My brain is racing a little bit. But then I talked to her, and I think I was telling you earlier, the biggest thing I tried to remember is standing in my own power and just know how big I am and that I am an adult. I'm not a child anymore.
Very good.
And I almost treated it in such a way of like, oh no, like I'm in trouble with mommy. But it wasn't really that. It was just like, hey, I'm an adult with a concern with another adult. So the way I was talking, it was more along the lines of, hey, mom, can I talk to you for a minute? She said, oh, yeah.
But I'd like that when you were telling me of your success, you had also mentioned that before you started speaking, you made sure that you were what? Hysterical and all revved up and...
She's giving me the buzzwords. Yes. So before I went in, I made sure I was grounded and centered.
And calm.
Yeah.
Right? So that, when one adult has a conversation with another adult, especially if it's a difficult conversation,
right,
you always approach it in neutral.
Yes.
Right? Calm.
Yes.
Collected. And if it gets raised, and I just feel that it's important to point this out. And then if you feel like, maybe it's getting heated,
right,
then it's time just to kind of put your hand up and go, okay, I think we both need to take a breath, so why don't we take a break and we'll come back to this later.
I think that's a very important thing.
All right, sorry to interrupt, because this is such a wonderful thing to hear. Go ahead.
No, but that is a really important factor, right? Because I'm looking at it when I was younger, and I would try to approach them, and I'd be revved up, they'd be revved up, and it would be a whole thing. So this was a lot different, where I was like, I was neutral, I was calm, I walked in with it, and I kind of just stated the facts, right? And it was kind of like what you were saying in the podcast before. I'm not attacking my parent. I'm more addressing the behavior.
Nice.
So I did it in such a way of, hey, mom, when you talk about dad like this, I feel like I'm in the middle, and it makes me anxious.
Nice.
So I said that in such a way, and I didn't put any extra words or call anybody any names, but I just said that, and I said it really calmly. So then, we went into another room for more privacy. And, at first I was like, I don't know how she's going to respond, because she didn't really make any faces. So we go into the other room for privacy. And I just kind of restated it again, like, I don't think anybody's a bad person. I don't think you dislike him in any manner. I realize that you're probably just venting, but that's just how I feel when that's happening. And I don't want to be in the middle of it or pit any parents against the other. So
beautifully done.
Thank you.
So what was her reaction?
Her reaction was, she took a second, and she's like, you know what? Thank you so much for telling me. Thank you so much for having the conversation with me, because I didn't know. I had no idea. But now it's giving me perspective and knowing, okay, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I think saying these things about, her father would put her in the middle, and she was, connecting the pieces and saying, I'm just really thankful that you had the conversation and you were able to be honest with me about it. I really respect that you could do that.
What?
What?
Say that again. She said, what?
I really respect that you could have this transparent conversation with me.
That's awesome.
Which I found to be like, what? I'm such an adult. But no, I think that was great because I feel like that builds the credibility, but mostly in myself, right? That I can have these conversations and I don't have to be anxious, like, she's going to think of me as this or that. It's like, no, you know what? You were able to put on your boots and have the conversations. Wow, that's very mature and adult of you.
Right.
I love that. And, I just told her a little bit about, me transitioning into me. And you kind of said it best. I don't know if you said it on the podcast or not, but just kind of stating the fact of, hey, your parents weren't with you at college, so they don't know.
That's right.
Which, I kind of had another conversation and just said, hey, if I'm acting a certain way or something like that, it's not because, I'm angry at you or I dislike you or I'm disinterested in what you're saying. It's just this version of me at school realized, like, wow, I could just be me because no one already knows me. So I got to settle in and experience all of who I be. And I realized, Mom, I'm a very calm person.
Nice.
She's like, what? Really? But yeah, so it was just a nice seed planting.
Very nice. Very nice.
I wonder who said that.
I wonder me. Yes. And by saying those things and doing that seed planting for her, she's going to start paying attention.
Right.
That, oh, look, my Shetty, she's all grown up now. She's not a little girl.
Love it.
But she's going to take note of the fact that you have grown in to an adult.
Yeah.
What are we doing? We're adult shipping.
Series part 6.
And you know what? You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
A very great job. And I am so grateful that you were willing to come and share that experience so quickly, because I think that for those listening who haven't tried this, it's important that you give it a go because it's really about you.
Yes, that's the biggest thing. It's not really about them. It's about you.
It's about you.
That. Yeah.
Yep. It's about you stepping into
right.
being the adult that you already know that you are.
Right.
And part of that is taking responsibility for your own feelings, for your own reactions.
Right.
Right. And also taking responsibility for teaching people how to treat you.
Yes.
And that's what you did.
Yeah.
Hey, Mom, by the way, I just got something I got to get off my chest here with you.
Right.
So you had the transparent conversation. Now you just built a level of trust.
Right. Right.
Because you had also said to me in part of that conversation, you assured her, hey, look, just so you know, when I behave this way, it doesn't mean I'm mad at you.
Right.
Right? It just means this is how I'm now reacting. I'm not pretending to be anyone else. I'm not going to be the person who needs to be the cheerleader for everyone.
Right.
I'm going to cheerlead for me in a way that speaks to me.
I do like me.
Right? Yeah. And that puts a whole different feel on stuff.
Right.
So thank you again. And I'm sure our listeners cannot thank you enough either for you to be so vulnerable in sharing your experiences with us, because a lot of us are going through it.
Right.
Or have gone through it.
Yeah, and I think like something you said in the earlier podcast, but I don't remember if you did or not, is mostly about like not taking on their stuff.
Yes.
So I think for me that gave me a lot of assurance, because even if I got into this situation and maybe she was angry or something like that, I wasn't taking any of that on. I was like, hey, this is, just how I'm feeling about this.
Yeah, and that's something to be conscientious about for oneself.
Right.
Because when we're children, our whole world revolves around our parents. And if they're mad at us, oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. Oh no, they're mad at me. They're not happy. Now I have to behave a certain way to get them happy again.
Right.
So that's that little dance. And it's a necessary dance for our children's safety.
Yeah.
Right? Just our basic safety.
Mm.
But that's why we're calling this a transition, going into adultship.
Right.
It is a transition for both parent and young adult, the young adult moving out of childhood into adulthood, and the parent moving out from being that parent who's constantly parenting into more of that counseling, advisor, mentory kind of thing. Right. And sometimes that's a hard dance, and it could get yucky. And that's why we like to talk about it so much, or at least me, I feel so passionate about it, is that...
I like it too.
Oh, good. is that as young adults, you have an opportunity to help the parent make that transition, because it really is about you.
Right.
It really is about you and you going out and having your life.
Right.
On your terms.
Yes.
You know, so being conscientious of those patterns and those buttons and, you know, all of that, and then building this new way of behaving with one another and being transparent about your feelings helps to build the trust.
Yes, that's a big one.
Yes. And if you happen to have a parent that kind of will try to disqualify how you feel, well, that's information. Don't take it, because you know what? Hey, I want y'all to know you're all justified in feeling the way that you feel.
Yeah, exactly.
No one can tell you how to feel. Only you. Mm-hmm. Only you get to tell it to yourself. Anyway, I just want to say, yay, Sherry!
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for listening as well.
Yes, and thanks for tuning in once again, so you can hear the update on Sherry's conversation. Go do it yourself, because you can.
Thank you for tuning in. Remember that you are bigger than anything that you are going through or anything that is happening around you.